Allegations of war crimes by Australian special forces prompt the government to allocate a special investigator. Ukraine's president hospitalised after contracting coronavirus earlier this week. Joe Biden's advisers concerned Donald Trump's unwillingness to begin the transfer of power could hinder US coronavirus efforts as the country records more than 140,000 new cases. And Typhoon Vamco paralyses Manila, the 21st storm to hit the Philippines so far this year.
This is SBS World News with Darren Mara.
Good evening. Australians have been warned to prepare for difficult and brutal truths, with a special investigator set to examine allegations of war crimes by Australian special forces in Afghanistan. Veterans could be prosecuted and stripped of their medals as the Prime Minister moves to protect soldiers from the International Criminal Court.
Another dark chapter in Australia's longest war.
This requires us to deal with honest and brutal truths, where expectations and standards may not have been met. This will be difficult and hard news for Australians, I can assure you.
A special investigator to assess potential war crimes committed by Australia's special forces between 2005 and 2016, exposing current and former soldiers to prosecution.
We need to deal with this as Australians, according to our own laws, through our own justice processes, and we will.
While others could be stripped of their medals.
Accountability will be the cornerstone of Defence's response to this inquiry.
For the last 4 years, the Defence Department's Inspector General has examined 55 separate incidents and heard evidence from more than 300 witnesses. While a redacted version of that inquiry will be released next Thursday, the Prime Minister concedes truth and justice will take time.
It is an indeterminate period of time, and it'll take as long as it takes. We must prepare ourselves for what will continue to be a long and arduous journey.
We deserve to know every single element of what happened, who's responsible, and who needs now to be held to account.
The protracted nature of the investigation frustrating some veterans of a conflict that has claimed 41 Australian lives, including Australia's highest decorated soldier, Ben Roberts-Smith, who has tonight confirmed his own conduct forms part of the investigation.
I'm always concerned for veterans. We need to look after our veterans, and I'm confident that the Morrison government will do just that.
It tarnishes the reputation of the Special Forces to a small extent, but what would tarnish it more was if we didn't do anything about it.
There is some disturbing conduct here, but we cannot then take that and apply it to everyone who's pulled on a uniform, and if we did that, that would be grossly unjust.
Brett Mason, SBS World News.
And Prime Minister Morrison has joined the growing list of world leaders to congratulate US President-elect Joe Biden over the phone. But outgoing President Donald Trump, who has made his first public appearance since losing, is still refusing to concede, continuing his unsubstantiated claims of widespread voter fraud. The Biden camp believes Trump's unwillingness to begin the transfer process could hinder coronavirus efforts. Infections have exploded across the US, the daily case record once again shattered. More than 140,000 new cases recorded in the past 24 hours. Over 10.4 million Americans have been infected with COVID-19, while nearly 242,000 have died.
At Arlington Cemetery in Virginia, marking Veterans Day with a visit to the tomb of the unknown soldier. President Trump reserved whilst in the rain in his first public outing since the election result, a defeat he simply won't admit to. He made no remarks in Arlington, saving claims of a stolen victory for social media.
The more people tell you it's not possible.
Posting this video titled "We Will Win," showing rally crowds complete with motivational score. Also tweeting, "With 72 million votes, we received more votes than any sitting president in US history." except for the fact that Joe Biden is now 5 million votes ahead on 77 million votes, the largest popular vote margin since Barack Obama in 2008. More importantly, his Electoral College lead is unassailable. The president-elect laying a wreath at the Korean War Memorial in Philadelphia and pushing on with the job before he's sworn in on January 20.
Well, Mr. President-elect, congratulations. And
Prime Minister Scott Morrison, the latest world leader, to phone his congratulations.
There's no question about the robustness of the US democracy, something that none of us ever lose faith in.
Mr. Biden invited to visit Australia in 2021 for the 70th anniversary of the signing of the ANZUS Treaty. Tonight, the incoming Biden White House naming its first senior appointee, Ron Klain, in charge of America's Ebola crisis during the Obama administration and a longtime aide of Joe Biden, now his chief of staff. But the fierce Trump battle rolls on, despite election officials nationwide finding no evidence of voter fraud.
I have seen the most fantastical things on social media, making completely ridiculous allegations that have no basis in fact at all.
The president's aides told to continue pursuing lawsuits and recounts in key states. Georgia, where Joe Biden leads Donald Trump by 14,000 votes, will recount every vote by hand.
It's been rigged from the beginning, rigged from the laws that were being passed in the name of COVID to create a porous election.
The transition process frozen. Health officials warning a delayed process could cripple the COVID response as cases and ICU admissions rise in all 50 states.
Our worst nightmare right now is having to choose between a patient in a car accident and a patient with COVID.
Texas, the first state to pass 1 million cases. Omer Dehen, SBS World News.
The World Health Organization has described Europe as a cautionary tale of the dangers of lifting coronavirus protective measures too quickly. The continent is experiencing an aggressive resurgence of both cases and deaths, today passing 50,000 fatalities. And Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has been hospitalised after contracting coronavirus earlier this week. The 42-year-old says he was admitted after recording a high temperature, but plans to continue working in isolation. Two ministers and Mr. Zelensky's top aide are also reported to be infected.
A new milestone on a road of grief and suffering. Another 595 lives lost in a single day, taking the United Kingdom's official death toll past 50,000. Sue's husband Steve died in the second wave. She says she never had a chance to say goodbye.
The shock came when I got a call on the early hours of the Friday morning to say that it developed a complication and that his heart had stopped. And I knew they did everything they possibly could.
The epicentre of Europe's first wave, Italy, has been hit harder than most, today reaching 1 million coronavirus cases, with 33,000 new infections and 623 deaths in 24 hours. This latest surge in Europe is only expected to get worse.
Wie das auch bei der spanischen Grippe der Fall war, muss man jetzt davon ausgehen, dass die zweite Welle härter ist.
Germany's been taking COVID patients from neighbouring countries, but now fears its own intensive care units could struggle to keep up.
Wir haben jetzt bereits 2 Stationen, die nahezu komplett gefüllt sind und wo wir eben kaum noch handlungsfähig sind.
Desperate for some relief from this deadly second wave, the European Union has sealed a deal to buy 300 million doses of the highly anticipated BioNTech-Pfizer vaccine if it's approved. Sweden's introduced a 10 p.m. curfew on alcohol sales amid a record rise in cases in recent weeks. The country's maintained a laid-back approach to the virus threat, despite recording more than 6,000 deaths since the outbreak began. In London, Michelle Rimmer, SBS World News.
Back in Australia, and Victoria's inquiry into its failed hotel quarantine program has claimed a third political scalp. Health and Human Services Secretary Kim Peake has resigned from her role. She had been grilled over her department's role in the bungled scheme at the inquiry. Ms Peake is the third state government figure to go, following the exits of Health Minister Jenny Mikakos and top bureaucrat Chris Eccles. Hong Kong's pro-democracy opposition lawmakers have resigned en masse in protest over the dismissal of 4 of their colleagues. The group was ousted immediately after Beijing imposed sweeping new powers that give the pro-China government the authority to expel politicians who support Hong Kong independence. The UK says it's a breach of the Sino-British Joint Declaration.
An extraordinary show of solidarity and a defiant end to political pluralism in Hong Kong. The entirety of the opposition caucus announcing it will vacate Parliament.
Hong Kong and oil! Together we stand! Together we stand!
The dramatic departure prompted by the disqualification of 4 of their colleagues. The men forced out almost immediately after Beijing gave the local government new powers that critics say are designed to further curb dissent.
From now on, every lawmaker must support the basic law of Hong Kong and be loyal to the People's Republic of China.
Opposition politicians calling it the death knell of Hong Kong's democracy fight.
They would think that from now on, anyone they found to be politically incorrect or unpatriotic or simply not likeable to look at, they could just oust you.
Critics say it's the latest attempt to stifle Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement, which has been under sustained attack since China imposed a sweeping national security law in June. Since then, Beijing-backed authorities have arrested activists and ramped up pressure on the courts and the media. The Legislative Council, seen as one of the last vestiges of dissent in the city, now a target. But those stood down are vowing to continue their fight outside the corridors of power.
I would certainly promise that I would continue to fight for the core values of Hong Kong: freedom, democracy, justice and fair. And we should never give up.
Abby O'Brien, SBS World News.
At least 2 people have been killed, 4 others are missing and countless been left homeless after Typhoon Vamco barreled through the Philippines, bringing winds in excess of 150 kilometres an hour. It's the 21st cyclone to hit the country this year, leading to landslides in the north of Luzon, the Philippines' main island, making many roads impassable. Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte personally made an aerial inspection of the capital city tonight, promising to get through the crisis without leaving anyone behind.
Barely picking up the pieces since the world's most powerful typhoon roared through the Philippines earlier this month, the country is again under siege. Typhoon Vamco unleashing winds of up to 155 kilometres an hour and torrential rain, causing severe flooding.
I wanted to cross the road to the other side, but the water is getting too deep and can't be crossed now.
Almost 200,000 people had been evacuated in anticipation of its arrival, but since then many more residents have been rescued by boat to the safety of rooftops. Those already there, including several children, were picked up by helicopters as floodwaters quickly rose.
The flood right now is more than waist deep, and over there it's reaching chest level, so everyone is trying to evacuate and seek shelter at the schools.
Parts of the capital, Manila, have been paralysed. In one of the worst-hit suburbs, 40,000 homes were either fully or partially submerged. Flights and mass transit were suspended and port operations stopped. The Mayor of Manila calling off all classes for school children tomorrow. Vamco has now weakened and is tracking towards Vietnam. Catalina Flores, SBS World News.
Coming up next, the push to allow grandparents into Australia during the pandemic.
Look looking for love in faraway places.
Man bliver en spiller på i et større fest.
How the internet cured loneliness and changed a remote community.
Different people, different cultures.
Then, on the feed.
She called me she, I said it's actually he, and she kind of stared at me.
For many trans people, a routine doctor's visit ends in invasive physical examinations.
That is a really serious issue.
Dateline followed by the feed. Tuesday from 9:30 on SBS and on demand.
World Movies are sharing stories that hold a mirror up to the world and ask, do you like what you see?
What am I fighting for? This is your country.
Man, y'all see a black man in court and assume I'm the one on trial.
They locked me up. They decided I'm a liar.
You think the law's going to protect you?
We gotta go now.
I want to lose my son again.
The Black Lives Matter collection concludes with Rabbit Proof Fence, tomorrow 9:30 on SBS World Movies.
This year has not been easy, but this is Australia. We will come back. The Australian government has a plan so our jobs can come back. We're supporting businesses to hire more staff, encouraging more training to give people the skills they need to get a job, and opening up thousands of new jobs in infrastructure. The Economic Recovery Plan. This is our comeback. Find out how it benefits you and Australia at ourcomeback.gov.au. Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
Optus knows family life can be complicated. That's why you can share a massive 250 gigs across 4 SIMs per month with the Optus Family Plan. It starts with yes.
Right now, Ford is delivering even more for business with a $1,000 deposit contribution when you take My Ford Finance, reducing your loan by $1,000 right at the get-go. So get to your Ford dealer now. We'll keep you moving.
Can you guess why I picked it?
We all pick things with our heart. But when it comes to car insurance, it pays to pick with your head. You could save up to 15% when you buy online. Plus, Woolworths car insurance customers could save on average $110 off their groceries each year. So get a quote online today.
That's why I picked Woolies car insurance.
I know I'm going in there to stop. I'm coming out a non-drinker.
There's not a straight line to recovery. There's going to be ups and downs and challenges along the way.
I don't know what to do. Sorry, Mum.
I haven't had a drink in 5 days.
He's really put in the hard yards. I feel like I could run a marathon or something.
Addicted Australia continues Tuesday 8:30 on SBS and on demand.
The best dramas are waiting to be uncovered this November on SBS On Demand.
If we don't stop him, he will kill again.
You had your chance. No, it's too late. You're a murderer. I didn't kill anyone.
We recommend he be sentenced to death.
This investigation has to stop. If it continues, I will have to set certain activities in motion.
Uncover the best dramas this month on SBS On Demand.
A deadline calling for the resignation of Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has passed with no sign of him stepping down. Mr. Pashinyan has faced protests after agreeing to a Russian-brokered peace deal to end 6 weeks of fighting in Nagorno-Karabakh. The enclave is internationally recognised as part of Azerbaijan, but had been largely controlled by ethnic Armenians. The Prime Minister says he had no choice.
Another day of protests. And the calls are only getting louder. In the crowd, they chant Artsakh. It's what Armenians call Nagorno-Karabakh, a region Azerbaijan will now largely control under a peace deal agreed to by the Armenian Prime Minister. This rally was organised by opposition groups.
The Prime Minister has not been seen in public since the deal was signed. Instead, he posted a Facebook message insisting he had no choice. Before the deal was signed, Azerbaijan had taken control of the region's second biggest city, Shusha, just a few kilometres away from the capital, Stepanakert.
The regional capital, Stepanakert, was under direct threat. The Army Chief of Staff said the city wasn't well defended. If it was captured, thousands of our soldiers would be in a blockade. We would have lost even more territory.
Further infuriating Armenians as Russian peacekeepers continue to arrive. Turkey confirmed it will also play some role in maintaining the ceasefire. Turkey's an Azeri ally, but has historically hostile relations with Armenia. Rachel Carey, SBS World News.
Well, there's a growing push to include parents of Australian citizens and permanent residents as immediate family members for travel during COVID-19. A petition has been tabled in federal parliament this week by a member of the government, giving hope to tens of thousands of migrant families.
This was the moment Emma and Julio Vega were told they were about to become grandparents. They were preparing to move to Australia from Peru in March to help their daughter Valeria with her new arrival, but closed borders stalled plans.
Una noticia así, la más mala que he tenido en toda mi vida, enterarme que no podíamos ir.
Under the COVID-19 travel ban, only immediate family of an Australian citizen or permanent resident is allowed to enter the country, but parents aren't considered immediate family, prompting heartache for tens of thousands of families across Australia and the world.
It's really hard not having their emotional support, not having their presence.
Es nuestra mayor ilusión tener a mi nieta en nuestros brazos.
Simone Holmes is also at breaking point.
Hi, Mummy.
She's been trying to get her widowed mother in Switzerland to Australia all year.
You've got to look at the mental health and the emotional the emotional strain that this puts on us is incredible. We are just losing hope.
They say all costs related to their parents' travel and stay will be covered, including expensive visas, quarantine and health needs. It would also allow someone like Valeria to get back to full-time work sooner.
They actually take their money with them and spend it here. So instead of just saying they're a burden, no, they actually would be good for the economy.
They're among more than 11,000 people to sign a petition which was presented to federal parliament this week by a member of the government.
Parents are a key part of an emotional support system for many immigrants and their families.
On this issue, Australia is an outlier. Other countries, such as Canada, are allowing parents of citizens into the country during the pandemic. And now, with a member of its own calling for change, the pressure on the government to act is growing. Acting Immigration Minister Alan Tudge and Home Affairs Minister Peter Dutton have not replied to our request for comment. Mr Dutton has up to 90 days to respond to the petition.
Please, we're asking you to give us a positive response.
Catalina Flores, SBS World News.
Type 1 diabetics could see the end of painful insulin injections with the world-first human drug trial to take place in Australia. It's already proven promising in animals, and researchers say their work is a step towards a cure.
Libby Rose was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes 3 years ago. Managing her blood glucose levels, part of her daily routine.
Having type 1 diabetes is relentless, and especially as a teenager, it's quite difficult to live your everyday life with.
Around 120,000 Australians have type 1 diabetes. It's an autoimmune disease in which the body's immune system mistakenly destroys insulin-producing cells in the pancreas. A Melbourne-led clinical trial is set to test a treatment intended to reduce the destruction and potentially the amount of insulin diabetics need to take.
Just after diagnosis, the people still have a very significant number of cells in their body that are still able to make insulin, and those cells are really important to protect, and that's what our trial is hoping to do.
The drug being tested is baricitinib. It's already being used to treat rheumatoid arthritis.
Because these drugs are already on the market, and because they've been used in children for various other diseases also, the path to using them clinically should be easier than otherwise.
Have you or your child been recently diagnosed with type 1 diabetes?
The Bandit Trial wants to enrol 83 people in Melbourne and Adelaide between the ages of 12 and 30 who've been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in the last 100 days.
Insulin has been used to treat type 1 diabetes for almost 100 years, but it carries with it the risk of long-term complications.
Eye damage, kidney damage, nerve damage, and also have long-lasting depression and mental issues associated with managing a very difficult condition throughout the lifetime.
The trial comes too late for Libby, but her family welcomes it.
Oh, extraordinary. It's a really exciting trial.
Results are expected in 2 years. Philippa Carisbrooke, SBS World News.
Coming up next, the weather and from the garbage to the garage. Students construct an electric car from completely recycled materials.
World Movies are sharing stories that hold a mirror up to the world and ask, do you like what you see?
What am I fighting for?
This is your country.
Man, y'all see a black man in court and assume I'm the one on trial.
They locked me up. They decided I'm a liar.
You think the law's going to protect you?
We gotta go now. I don't want to lose my son again.
The Black Lives Matter collection concludes with Rabbit Proof Fence, tomorrow 9:30 on SBS World Movies.
Bold is standing out, never blending in. It's unapologetically chunky and never thin. Bold is savoured, never swift. It's plentiful, rich, sensations ignite. Old Gold is bold in every bite.
What do I want today? Equipment I can rely on. And gives me a great finish. Love my Honda.
Learn hands-on real-world skills while you earn money with a fee-free apprenticeship or traineeship with Australia's largest education provider. Search Take New South Wales Apprenticeships or call 131 601.
Welcome to the Temple of Dry. Here, you will free yourself of complication, and you will learn to be like the beer. Like Carlton Dry, you must be perfectly balanced. You must be smooth. You must never be bitter. Carlton Dry, be like the beer.
Make Christmas magical at Harris Scarf with 40 to 60% off all homewares in Manchester, 30 to 50% off all clothing, footwear and underwear, and 20 to 30% off all electrical. Ends 22nd of November. Shop great brands at great prices in store or online.
He had a way to reel you in.
And the Giant became a household name.
The landmark documentary, Andre the Giant, Sunday 8:30 on SBS and on demand.
I know I'm going in there to stop. I'm coming out a non-drinker.
There's not a straight line to recovery. There's going to be ups and downs and challenges along the way.
I don't know what to do. I'm sorry. Sorry, Mum.
I haven't had a drink in 5 days.
He's really put in the hard yards. I feel like I could run a marathon or something.
Addicted Australia continues Tuesday 8:30 on SBS and on demand.
It's breakfast.
It's black.
And it's bright and early.
All NAIDOC week. Cheers.
Big Mob Brekkie, every weekday 7:30 a.m. on NITV and on demand.
There's a world of stories available for free at SBS On Demand. Download the app or visit the website today. SBS On Demand, a world of difference.
To the weather now. In the major centres, partly cloudy in Adelaide and Darwin, a possible shower or storm in Brisbane, a shower or two in Canberra, Hobart, Sydney and Melbourne, rain in Perth. Further afield, partly cloudy in Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch, rain in Samoa, thunder in Nadi. In Southeast Asia, cloud in Bangkok and Jakarta, drizzle in Denpasar, thunder in Kuala Lumpur. Further north, fine day ahead for Beijing, Hanoi and Tokyo. Heading west, foggy in Delhi, partly cloudy in Islamabad. Up to Europe, showers in Belgrade and Istanbul, a few showers in London. In Africa, cloudy in Algiers and Casablanca, thunder in Lagos. South America, thunder expected in Panama City and Rio de Janeiro, cloud in Asuncion. And for North America, rain in New York and showers in Vancouver. Well, what can you make from plastic fished out of the sea, recycled bottles and household garbage? Well, these Dutch students got creative and made a fully functioning electric car. The two-seater, which the students have named Luca, has a top speed of 90 kilometres per hour and a range of 220 kilometres when fully charged. The car was designed and built by a group of 22 students from the Technical University of Eindhoven, who say they'd like to see car companies start using waste materials in the future. And that is The World this Thursday. The SBS News website has all the latest stories, and you can get news anywhere, anytime with the SBS News app. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow morning for Big Mob Brekkie from 7:30 a.m. on NITV. Shani Wellington and Ryan Little present the first all-Indigenous breakfast show for NAIDOC Week. Thanks for your company. I'm Darren Mara from the team. Good night.